Rarely has mankind hesitated to eradicate the creatures that stand in the path of his conquest. If we find intelligent species, ritual extirpation, undesirable beings, odors from another world, the rest must be destroyed. Is it possible that our dark past might repeat itself? Watch them and pray.
Greetings, ladies, gentlemen, government agents, those of you planning assassination through the cover of the Black Friday chaos, and anyone who might be listening. This is Close Encounters of the Podcast Kind. I'm your host, Tasker, and we have Nick.
Okay, guys, this is going to be old news by the time this gets to your ear holes. Well, maybe not, but let me give you a piece of advice. If you think that you can if you could jump the gate at a WWE Raw match and spear Seth Rollins and get away with it, you're retarded.
Wow, that sounds like something you've been thinking about a lot lately.
It happened yesterday. So there's clips you can find on TikTok, YouTube. It's like all over the place in the WWE sphere.
Wait, who WWE, what was his name?
Seth Rollins. It's in the news. Yeah, if you Google it, you'll be able to find it in the news clips.
WWE star Seth Rollins fends off fan attack on Raw. Man faces charges in the incident. Oh my god.
And there's a video of him coming around. Like, at first I thought it was like a planned thing, because he comes around the corner of the entrance of the stage, kind of like from where it looks like, you know, the superstars come from the locker room and stuff.
Right.
But it was just a fan.
Is he the dude in the red pants?
Seth Rollins?
No, there's like a dude with like bright red pants that everyone. Oh, it's the dude get with like the five refs on him.
Yeah.
Holy shit. He had a spear?
No. It's a move. He speared it. So like so
okay.
he basically dove at his midsection and shouldered him in the stomach, is what a spear is. And you know what? I gotta say, if you think you can get away with that, you're sorely mistaken. However, I will say that was a pretty good spear for an amateur. It was pretty good. So
yeah, and it's a shame, because since he was not a part of the WWE, it's assault. So
right,
it's a shame he worked his whole life to get to that point, to finally spear a professional wrestler, and now he has to do prison time for it.
So I just want to give you guys a piece of advice. If you go to a live recording of Raw or SmackDown, and you think you can take one of the wrestlers, you probably can't.
No, these are professionals. They do this every month. Yeah, I'm still just in my head. There was a guy with an actual spear charging across. That was a very interesting image, but thank you for clarifying.
No worries, man. Yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up because it was been on my mind since yesterday when it happened. I was like, good Lord, who the fuck does this?
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. We haven't had some spicy WWE news in a while, so much appreciated. And also, too, just because while I'm thinking about this, we're actually recording this earlier than usual, because I have been trying to get, if you've been listening, I've been trying to get a PS5, and I finally nailed one today, because I had a Twitch stream running on my phone 24/7 that blares a tactical nuke incoming and this loud siren to wake you up if there's any drops. And today there was an Amazon one, and I finally got it, and I am tired as fuck, but too excited to go back to bed, so that's why we're recording.
That's right. We usually record at 1 or 2,
right,
which is Tasker's wake up time, right?
Exactly.
But I was up already because I'm fucking a normal person, so I was up. And Tasker's like, "Yo," first of all, he texted me at I think it was 8 something his time. I was like, "Wait, you good? Did you just not go to sleep last night?" Or that was my first thought.
Because usually when I text you really, really early, it's because I just didn't sleep at all.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it early, man. I mean, I have more energy at this time. I'm not, it's not midday, so I feel, I'm in. Also, let me be the first to apologize to you guys. I know last time we said that we would be wrapping up the Jeffrey Dahmer series. It's just a lot of shit. All right. And reasonably so. He's one of, like we've talked about, one of the most prolific serial killers and most documented serial killers of all time. So right. This is part 3. We will officially, for realsies, be concluding it on episode 99. So stay tuned for that. But yes, it's going to be another fun. Well, okay, fun in the sense of if you kind of dissociate from reality. It's going to be another bloody episode.
Yeah, good old classic dissociative fun. But this has been a fun series, though, for us in terms of the subject matter of being able to cover something that actually realistically is 100% confirmed really happened. Jeffrey Dahmer was a real person. And now I'm like, I don't know if we brought this up on the last one, but I've been like looking into like all the movies made about him. I heard the movie Dahmer was not amazing and that they left out like everything like crazy, like actually insane about the story, and they dumbed it down a bit. I watched a little clips from My Friend Dahmer, which had like that like pop punk singer or something like that play Dahmer, I think. Let me look that up. My Friend Dahmer. So I thought it was Zac Efron that was supposed to play. No, he played
Bundy.
Ted Bundy. Yeah, he did Bundy.
I mean, it makes sense, dude. They're both handsome, objectively.
Yeah. And that's how they do it, man. It's like it's spooky. It's that hook, line, and sinker. Mark Myers, who's I could have sworn he was like in a band or something like that, but yeah, it's crazy because My Friend Dahmer was actually a graphic novel by a guy named Durf Backdurf.
Oh, good, man. He's let me guess, somewhere in Northern Europe. Good.
No,
God.
he was one of Jeffrey Dahmer's good friends growing up.
Oh, even worse.
Yep, and he grew up to be an artist and made a graphic novel about his experiences with Dahmer growing up. That's what's called My Friend Dahmer, and then they made a movie about it.
Well, nothing like cashing out on the horrific crimes that occurred just because you knew the guy for a little bit. So I would expect nothing less from a man named Durf. You know what I mean?
It's an American crime, so we can only expect an American response.
Yeah, it's true. See, I'm not being a hypocrite because we're not getting paid for this. All right. We're just talking about it. So I'm not cashing shit out.
Right. Technically, we fall into the category of hobbyist. So yeah, we could say whatever the hell we want. And I'm enjoying it. It is nice. I feel like it took me about 100 episodes to finally be like, oh, we really can say whatever we want, within reason.
You still cut some of the stuff I say, which is understandable in hindsight.
Just a real maverick, huh? So
oh yeah.
Which is great for this topic at least. But before we get into it, like we always do in the show, it's good to kind of get a gist of the energy of how this episode is going to go. How's your horoscope looking?
Let's see here. Don't let your emotions get the better of you today. If you can harness them, you'll have the vital force of 10 people. You can be invincible. You can do whatever you feel like doing and no one can stop you. If you share this energy with others, they might end up feeling like you do. The best in your whole life.
Wow. So is that just talking about you trying not to drop a bunch of money on Black Friday deals or something?
I mean, honestly, that is a struggle that I've always had, financially. I like to buy things, that's my thing. I feel like I should have been an 80s Wall Street worker, but yes, continuing my PC saga, it's still fucked. Yeah. It's unsavable at this point. So Tasker and I were talking about, me getting a new PC, and that's probably what this is talking about. It's like, hey, before you spend $1,700, think about it.
Right. Because, if you listen to the last Kickback episode, we had a whole IT segment at the end. Yeah. Or who knows? And by the way, I guess the update for that is it did not work. So,
well, it didn't work, but also it kind of did. I just feel like I'm doing something wrong. But I'm just too uninvested, and it's an older PC, so I don't have a lot of heart left for the guy. It's kind of shitty now, and
also too, you don't want to keep on taking it into Geek Squad or whatever the hell, so they can scam you out of $200 to not fix anything or make it work for a week. And
this all started with Geek Squad, bro, because I took it in years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, to Geek Squad because my motherboard, something happened to my motherboard and my PC was not catching power. It wasn't turning on. They replaced the motherboard. But in the process, they somehow fucked up my Windows. So ever since, and they told me this, they're like, yeah, your Windows won't activate. I was like, cool. You know what I mean? Cause I got this as a pre-built thing with Windows installed in it. I don't have the key. So I can't, and then I couldn't switch my account, and then I wiped it in order to and so it all kind of started with Geek Squad not knowing how to do shit, and then they fixed so I could play games for a few years, but I didn't have Windows technically.
I can't help but feel like this is the result of some really complex butterfly effect that happened. Just some kid decided to buy Skittles instead of M&Ms, and then it just goes all the way to all the waves to your computer bricking itself.
Yeah, dude. I just God, it's really annoying.
Yeah.
But whatever, man. I'll figure it out. Yeah, I talk a big game. I'll talk about how I'm gonna hold off on getting a PC, but your boy probably will end up just fucking buying one anyway. So
Yeah, well, we'll see if the stars give you that level of restraint, or maybe not. Who knows?
hey, that's what credit cards are for. All right. So my stars looking good. Sex is actually, I'm just gonna say it all across the board, 4 out of 5 stars.
Not bad.
So looking good, feeling good because I am expecting to hear back about a job opportunity today. So I fucking hope that this has to do with my stars.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, we'll be rooting for you. I'm knocking on wood, both my desk and my wood, and
Nice.
hopefully if that works out for you, I guess we'll hear.
Awesome, man. But anyways, enough about my fucking technological troubles again. What's going on your end?
Let's see. You'll have a lot of stamina in the weeks to come. Cool. Your energy will increase thanks to the prevailing planetary transits. You thrive on your romantic desires and your creativity. You should try to stay in control of situations. Don't let your or anyone else's emotions take over your life. I mean, I guess.
Your emotions betray you.
So just keep a level head. I mean, I do have finals coming up soon, so I think that's some good advice, horoscope. It's not a prediction or anything at all.
Yeah, it's just
but-
like just his 2 cents.
Yeah. Oh God. Sex is a 4 out of 5. Hustle's a 3 out of 5. Vibes a 4 out of 5. Success is a 3 out of 5. It's something about recording in the mornings, just higher stars.
Yeah, man, we're doing okay. We're doing okay today.
Yeah, I'm digging it. I am 100% only alive because of coffee. I literally have class right after this, and I'm gonna sleep through that and then take a nap.
Which class do you have?
It is architecture and assembly language, working with machine language of computers.
Yeah, definitely sleep through that, man. Doesn't sound too important.
That class is hard as fuck. It's just trash, dude. And I can't even begin to describe it because then everyone's just gonna fucking turn the podcast off because they don't want to hear about computers anymore today. They want to hear about the blood, gore, guts, and the really juicy stuff that's going to be happening today. That was a really poor choice of words.
Yeah, man, you are just like you're talking about it like you're trying to promote like a carnival or something.
Like a new like snack or something.
No. I mean, there are some snacks in here in this episode. Yeah, unfortunately.
Interesting. Oh, this is the big one where Dahmer goes from scary to brutal to just like true crime legend, and not in a positive context, by the way.
No, he in this episode, you guys will see, yes, pretty much what Tasker described, because he's been murdering people, but he's been doing it methodically. Okay.
Yeah.
You'll see a ramp up, and then near the end, you will see a just complete psychotic breakdown. And it's psychotic in like the clinical sense, like he is becoming delusional at certain points. You'll see, it's very interesting. But hey, guys, like I already prefaced all this. This is part 3. 99 will be the final 4th part. So on today's episode, we'll be covering the next phase in Dahmer's timeline, including more close calls, more murders, and his eventual discovery by law enforcement. So, without further delay, grab your beer cozies, fire up the brats, and double check that there's no human meat in them before taking a bite, because we're diving right in.
It's a very important part of going to barbecue events, is making sure there's no human meat in it.
Yeah, especially in Wisconsin, dude.
Yeah, well, it also happened in South Park, like the chili cook-off thing.
Oh, that's a classic. That is a good episode, man. I'm hungry right now.
That episode's so fucked, but oddly relevant to what we're talking about.
Amen. So, when we last left Mr. Dahmer in part 2, he had just finished exploding the skull of Edward Smith in an easy bake oven mishap. Okay. Now, we pick up the story only a couple months after this murder. So, Dahmer met a young man named Ernest Miller, 22 years old, outside of a bookstore on North 27th Street, not too far from his apartment. No doubt, it was one of those gay bookstores that we talked about in the last episode. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And you know what? I got confirmation from somebody who listens to the podcast, or at least, from one person. I don't know if this is 100% confirmed, that the bathhouse discussion, I was technically in the right there, where it's pretty much just a gay thing.
Yeah, no, I hope it came across that I relented. I didn't carry that in my like.
Is that
the podcast?
Is that a hill that you're willing to die on because you want to go to them so bad but not be gay?
Some repression there. I'm just so fascinated by it. No. It's I'll give it to you. I definitely am like, yeah, no, you're right.
All right.
As much as it pains me to say it.
And you know what? Next time we hang out together, especially if I go to like LA, let's do a little experiment. Let's conduct one. I'll pay you $10 to go in, and I'll pay the cover fee for a bathhouse in LA. You go in there, and if you don't leave at least with a handy, I'll give you an extra $10.
$10 for a handy is not bad.
Now, I'm technically paying you to get a hand job.
Yeah, I'm actually being paid for it. Or we could just do buddy system and stuff, and then just
I'm not going in there, buddy. Man, that's all you. I'll stand guard outside the front door, so you don't get Dahmered. But I will. I'm not going in. I don't want people to think I'm homophobic. The reason I'm not going in is because I won't go in is because that's not a question I need answered. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to confront that part about me. So.
Oh, fair enough. And also too, it's just kind of, I don't know, any sort of like public sex, anything is just kind of, it's kind of dirty.
It's gross, man. AIDS is still a thing. People keep forgetting about that. So the 80s never ended, man.
Well, it's not even just AIDS. There's a shit ton of STDs and STIs and stuff out there. And like when you're going to these public places, that's just kind of, you're kind of putting yourself in the ring for it. So, anyways, whoever reached out to confirm, thank you for that. Yeah, we appreciate the feedback. And I'm not so immature that I cannot admit to being wrong from time to time.
That's fair. You know what? The last thing I'll say about it, man, is I think that you just took the side because you didn't want to come off as homophobic, and I appreciate that.
That's well, yeah, because it started to turn against me, and then I started to realize, like, oh wait, like that's my. But like I said, it was an in the moment conversation, and I feel like I learned something.
Okay, cool. So the reason I brought all that up is because, we did talk about how there's like in the gay community, there's certain meetup spots, especially when it was more frowned upon by society.
Right. Where you had to be super covert about it.
Yeah. So probably this bookstore, right? Where he met this gentleman, Ernest Miller. You know what I mean?
So it's a bookstore, or I thought there were bathhouses.
No, this one's a bookstore. But in the last episode, we talked about how there's certain places where covert gay meetups can happen. Yeah. I
see. It's just the unspoken but agreed upon spot.
Yeah, because only women and gay guys read, so that's why they meet up here.
I don't know if there's factual basis for that, but
anyway, that's a hot take. So Miller agreed to go back to Jeffrey's apartment with him for $50. And he even agreed to let Jeff listen to his heart and stomach once they got to the apartment. Like Jeff was just kind of like, hey, pal, you mind if I go in there and, I'm training to be a doctor. Let me listen to your heart, buddy.
Which is, imagine going on you're on Tinder or you're on one of those dating apps and you meet up with somebody. They're pretty attractive. You're like, oh, they're like kind of cool, like a little quiet. And then they like start asking to listen to your heart and stomach sort of out of blue. And he was pretty weird about it too. He's like, can I just really quick listen to your heartbeat?
He's probably shit faced too, so he's just stumbling over words and like
sunken eyes and shit glazed over. Now when you put it in the context of a Tinder date, it sounds fucking terrible. So, but I don't know, maybe this guy was just desperate, or I don't know, maybe it's the excitement of doing something like you're not quote unquote not supposed to do, because like back then that was like really persecutable.
Yeah, it definitely could be, but either way he agreed. So
to be fair, we've all done some weird shit when we were horny as fuck. So.
Oh my god, dude, I fucking tell me about it, dude. I have been dude. I don't want to get into it or anything, but
yeah, I'll save that for therapy. So yeah, I think this guy was just a little too hard to be thinking straight.
Yeah. Now apparently, listening to Miller's heart and stomach got Jeff all hot and bothered because he decided that he needed to suck some dick. Okay. Yeah. Like it was like he was like, gotta suck some dick, man, every once in a while.
Hey, if you're on that train, it's gotta go at some point.
Yeah, dude. So upon trying to perform oral sex on Ernest, Ernest stopped him and he said, quote, "That'll cost you extra," unquote.
Damn.
Turned down, dude.
Businessman.
Now, naturally, Dahmer just slipped him some drugs and an alcoholic beverage. He wasn't going to pay extra to suck some dick. You know what I mean?
Right.
However, on this occasion, Jeff was running low on his supply of hypnotics and only had 2 left to drug Miller with. I'm sorry, with which to drug Miller. Jeez.
Yeah. Nice. Yep. Oh, let's record earlier. I'm so much more awake and sharp.
So my grammar's off. I apologize. My grammar's off on a podcast that
You right?
Yeah. Now, because of this, Ernest was only drowsy and did not lose consciousness. So strangulation would prove to be difficult if Jeffrey had attempted it. Instead, he used a knife. In fact, the same knife he used to dissect his victims to kill Miller. And he did so by severing the carotid artery. And within a matter of minutes, Miller bled to death. Now, I believe, if we've been doing our studies right, this is the first time that Dahmer had used a knife to kill somebody. And up until this point, it's been some form of strangulation.
Yeah.
Or beating them.
Yeah, or with his fists or anything like that. But yeah, he's used his hands every single time, which is a frighteningly personal way to commit murder. But yeah, and it's interesting that now he's implementing tools, which, as we'll come to find out, may or may not have been a gateway to what he ends up doing in the future.
Right. I think that I'm not sure, because I don't have the mind of a serial killer, but I think that the only reason he did it in this case was because strangulation was out of question. And I think that he kind of resorted to it. I don't think he liked it.
Killing was the means. He didn't enjoy the killing part. It was just this whole shitty thing, this pain in the ass thing he had to do to get what he actually wanted, which was a dead body.
Yeah, that was the end goal. He wanted to play around like it was a slip and slide afterwards, you know?
Yeah. And then that's the thing, is that's probably why he didn't like using knives and stuff like that, because it makes shit messy. Whereas, with strangulation and stuff like that, there was no blood, there's no any of that. And when it came to this, like, yeah, it's just, it's just kind of a big old pain in the butt.
Yeah, exactly. Now, he decided to add more photos to his weird collection. So he posed Miller's body in suggestive manners and used his Polaroid camera to photograph him. He then placed Miller's body in the bathtub for dismemberment. And after decapitating him, he would kiss and talk to the head in between dissections of the rest of the body. Right? So, like, he first cut the head off. He would cut an arm off and look back at the head and be like, "Hey, man, it's just going to be you and me pretty soon, Oh, yeah. Kiss it and then go back to cutting."
It's a weird memory, but this reminds me of Helga Pataki from Hey Arnold, how she had the Arnold shrine, except he was made out of bubble gum and wasn't a corpse.
Weird that you made that connection, man. But I guess...
Well, yeah, she had like her weird altar to Arnold and stuff like that. You remember that show?
No, I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so Dahmer was just a male Helga who just actually murdered the people he wanted.
All right, that's fair. I mean, I just think of the movie Necromantic, because there's a similar scene. It was one or two. It was one of them. If you guys like really fucked up, weird exploitation films, watch Necromantic 1 and 2.
I saw there was this thing where it's just like it did a list of like some of the most like fucked up films, and I think like all the ones I'd seen like a couple of them, and it's your fault that I've seen them.
You're welcome. It's what I do. I try and spread true horror, because like, when all we have are jump scares and crappy Blumhouse films, including the new Halloween, and then it's like, well, turn to exploitation, because some of that shit's really, really unsettling,
Oh yeah, like what better way to take a glimpse into the real scope of human depravity that we do to one another? Like on that list thing I saw, the only one I didn't see was a Serbian film, which that's one of your favorites, right?
That's a brutal film, man. That is not for, I would say at least be 13 years old if you watch that shit. You know what I mean? I'm just kidding. That's a weird movie, man. That's that'll leave a real that left a bad taste in my mouth, dude. That's saying something.
And let me emphasize how that is definitely saying something, because Nick watches some fucked up stuff for fun, and for you to walk away and be like, "Oh, like that kind of like messes with your psyche." That's impressive, and that's probably why I'll never watch it.
It's a one and done. You don't need to see that. It's not a movie where you're like, oh, it's Friday night. What should we watch? Oh, Serbian film. You know what I mean? No, you watch it once because other people watch it. And you never watch it again.
It's a great way to lose friends or have your spouse divorce you.
Yeah. I tried buying it on Blu-ray because this movie company I really like put out a special edition, and I got vetoed hard on that.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, too. I also probably got put on a watch list for it. Jeez.
Oh man. Anyway, so now while dissecting the body, Jeffrey took the heart, biceps, and part of the leg meat and put them into plastic bags, which went into the fridge in order to eat them later. The remainder of the flesh was stripped from the skeleton and boiled in Soilex in order to render it as a, quote, jelly-like substance, unquote.
Do you think after this whole Jeffrey Dahmer thing came to light, Soilex stock went up or down?
Honestly, it probably a push and pull, because some people who were like, hey, that's weird. I mean, they incorrectly made the connection between Soilex and Dahmer, and they were like, nope, we're boycotting them because they obviously knew what they were doing. And then there's the people who are like true crime groupies, you could call them. You're like, oh my God, Dahmer used these. I'm going to buy this and just never use it. So probably both.
What exactly does Soilex do except for dissolving human bodies?
I don't know what it's used for. Is it like a Drano substance or something?
Let's see. Total cleaning solutions, industrial. Yeah, so it looks like just like an industrial strength like Drano, which, if y'all don't know, just like dissolves the fuck out. You pour it into your drain to clear clogs. So it's basically like mega acid.
Cool. Awesome.
Yep, I'm going to X out of this page because I think FBI sees that I'm looking up Soilex while talking about Jeffrey Dahmer. So, going to click out of here.
Good idea. Good idea, man. So he wanted to keep the skeleton, and he put it in a light bleach solution for 24 hours. Then he laid it upon a cloth in order to dry it for an entire week. So in the past, we've seen him try to bleach skulls, skeletons, but they've become very brittle over time. But I think he found the correct water to bleach ratio and drying process in order to not have it be brittle. Dahmer put Miller's head in the fridge for some time, but eventually he stripped the flesh from it as well and painted it and coated it in enamel to preserve it. Ew. That's the process, man. He's getting all Michael's arts and crafts store on me here.
Yeah, and what's crazy is how much effort he puts, because that's a day and a half of bullshit. Like, he's real and thought this all out, planned it, and executed it. Like, I'm not, and let me emphasize, I'm not commending his work ethic. I'm just saying, like, he must have really wanted this shit to like put this much time and effort, man. Like, I have some days where it's just like I just don't move for like 2 hours, and I could be having fun, like I could be playing a game, and I'm just like, nah, don't want to get up.
That's why, he wants the body, like if he's willing to kill for what he wants, he definitely put some time into it after,
Yeah, he commits, I guess you could say.
Only 3 weeks later, on September 24th, Dahmer met another 22-year-old man named David Thomas at the Grand Avenue Mall. Jeffrey convinced Thomas to come back to his apartment for drinks and offered him money to pose for nude photographs, which Thomas accepted. Once they were at his apartment, Dahmer did the old Cosby on him, right? However, something this time would be different. He ended up not finding Thomas attractive, but he already had drugged him. So afraid of being caught, Jeff saw that his only option was to kill Thomas anyway.
Yeah, in too deep. And then when you're that deep in all the bullshit, this is how it gets worse. It's just when something unintentional happens, now that killing is an option for you. Now he's just doing it just to do it. Yeah.
And as he did in his usual manner, Thomas was strangled to death while unconscious and dismembered in the bathtub. The difference here is that since Dahmer did not find him ultimately attractive, he did not keep any of the body parts and disposed of the body relatively quickly. For the next 5 months or so, following the murder of David Thomas, Dahmer didn't kill anybody, okay?
Oh, did it just leave like a bad taste in his mouth?
No, actually, that's interesting because it's not to say that he wasn't trying. Right. He had unsuccessfully tried to lure at least 5 men back to his apartment during this span of time. He lost his mojo. You know what I mean?
I could see that because normally he kills, like we were talking about. He doesn't like killing. He just likes what it does and what it gives him. And now that he's killed basically somebody for no reason, I'm sure that's a bit of, for him in his weird little fantasy world, that was kind of a fuck, that was just murder. Because I think there's a way of rationalizing maybe that he's going through where it's well, it's almost like, okay, I don't mean to, I'm not trying to over rationalize it or anything, but it's if you go and you hunt and kill an animal and you're well, it's okay because I'm going to eat the whole thing. Dahmer applied that logic, which makes sense if you're hunting a animal, to humans, basically, which is not okay, which is, well, I'm getting something out of it. I'm using the body. So why shouldn't I? But then now that he's killed somebody and can't apply that logic, the bubbles bursted. Now it's just murder, no matter what way you look at it.
Right. Yeah. The old Native American logic. Yeah. Make sure you use the whole thing. Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. That's kind of just my guess of why it might have thrown him off. But I mean, yeah, that might do it. He just fucking wasted a murder.
Yeah. So maybe his mojo dropped because of that. His self-esteem went down because he's damn, I just killed some guy,
what kind of serial killer am I? I'm so bad at this.
Oh man, these guys don't want to come back to my apartment and my weird, smelly apartment with me.
I should just quit. I'm so fucking shit.
Now we come to February 1991. Dahmer's dry spell had been moistened yet again. He met a boy, 17 years old, named Curtis Straughter, at a bus stop outside of Marquette University. He was able to lure Straughter back to his apartment by offering money again for nude photography, and he also hinted at having sex, which apparently sounded groovy to Straughter.
A lot of these murders probably could have been avoided if they had OnlyFans back then, because then you don't have to go to creepy dudes' houses. You could just, post pictures online.
Yeah, dude. Man, thank God for OnlyFans. We are not dwindling as a society whatsoever.
Though I wonder too, maybe it's very possible a lot of lives have been saved because of OnlyFans, because they don't have to go out there and do sketchy companies or meet with people like Dahmer to do no, you can just do it all yourself. And there is actually quite a fair chance that there's some lives that get to continue.
Yeah, man. What about American values, dog? No, I'm just kidding. I don't give a fuck.
American values are corporate values, so.
Dude,
chew on that.
Welcome to cyberpunk, bro. That's the way it goes, man. Give it another 50 years, we're gonna be fucked.
Fucking corpos.
So once at the apartment, Dahmer drugged him by means of a drink and handcuffed Straughter's hands behind his back while unconscious. He then strangled him to death with a leather strap and placed him in the bathtub. Now, during the usual dismemberment process, Dahmer took photos of the body at each major stage of dismemberment for memories.
Ugh, that's fucking disgusting. When they get the McDonald's fries and you see all the stages of decomposition, except the McDonald's fries didn't decompose. That's right.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the big problem.
Yikes. So yeah, Dahmer, what the fuck, man? That's fucking gross.
Yeah, dude, he's okay, there's an arm. All right, let me snap a shot. All right, let me cut his wee off. Okay, there we go. Not the photo.
It's the kind of stuff that's meant to fuck your day up on 4chan is the stuff that he had in his living room.
Yep.
That's so weird. That's that's just, let me just emphasize just how morbid this is, where it's and it's funny, the more we get into the episode, the more morbid it gets, the more easy it is to kind of detach ourselves and make it feels more like we're talking about a movie than a person who actually did this. But just, remember, the sight of a human corpse is already horrifying enough as is, but he not only is enjoying it and taking photos of it, but photographing it as it decomposes, where it's arguably the most horrific and scary.
Dismemberment. He's photoing each stage of dismemberment. As he cuts off a limb, he'll take a photo, not the decomposition.
Oh, okay. All right. I
still not still not good.
Yeah, still bad. But yeah, shout out to early morning episodes. I'm doing my best, but okay. That's I guess a little bit of a relief, but
not as gross, but still bad.
Yeah, it's not too much better.
Right. Now, this time, with the corpse, he kept the head, genitals, and both the hands of the victim.
Ugh.
Now, before I get into the next murder, I'm sure many of you out there have heard of Dahmer's attempts to create sex slave zombies by using acid, right?
Mm.
And this is the first instance that we see this in. Okay, now he's getting all creative. He's trying to baby's first chemistry set. He's trying to fucking. He watched the movie White Zombie once, and he's like, I can do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and like you were talking about earlier, this is like we're starting to see him like really just get lost to this weird fantasy world where now there's like zombies and shit and like reanimated corpses. Like now it's just like he was gone before, like he was like on like a bad path and was a fucked up monster, but now he's just gone. Now it's like he's not even like thinking like a human anymore. Now he's just like a predator, true to form, with like just this weird made up world around him.
Yeah, man. So just under 2 months after the murder of Curtis Straughter, on April 7th, Dahmer met a man named Errol Lindsay. Yeah, that's his name. I'm pretty sure I put that in right. He's 19 years old. Okay. Now here's the thing. Lindsay was not gay, but Dahmer was able to lure him back to his apartment nonetheless. I'm not sure how he did this because, again, Lindsay was not a homosexual. Perhaps there was a Packers game on.
Yeah, well, Wisconsinites love their fucking football. And probably, maybe it was like the first guy, just, hey, want to watch the game, have a brew for free? You just seem cool. And back then you could trust like that.
And you'd be like, yeah, buddy, sounds like a good plan to me. You got any beer cozies though? Because like my hands get real cold here.
Mm-hmm. Who knows? But it's just crazy because despite Dahmer not being like the worst looking dude, like he's like, I don't know. I just can't help. Like we said, he's like wasted all the time. And that shows on your face if you're like a heavy drinker. So like, I don't know. Maybe they're just like, oh, this dude's just like fucked up all the time. Like, that sounds great, man. He's harmless.
Anyway, he went through the usual drugging of Lindsay by means of alcohol. But this time, instead of strangling him right away, he decided to drill a hole into his skull, leading into his brain.
About. He was alive for it, huh?
Yes, because the ultimate goal was for them to awaken from their unconsciousness and become like submissive sex slave zombies. So he needed them alive. He just needed them unconscious to drill a hole.
That's terrible.
So Dahmer, after drilling the hole, poured hydrochloric acid into the hole in his head, and it began to seep into his brain. In this particular case, didn't specify which part of the brain it went into. Later on, we'll see he went for the frontal lobe, so I'm just going to imagine it was the frontal lobe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, hydrochloric acid is that's not stomach acid, is it?
Man, I don't know, dude. I'm not a biologist.
We should know, dude. We took chemistry together.
Yeah. Since we did you notice I wasn't paying attention?
No, yeah, you were in the back of the classroom. I remember. Very, very far back, though, in the middle, right in this line of sight of the teacher.
Yeah, it was a mistake.
Let me see. Stomach acid versus hydro. So one ingredient. Yeah, hydrochloric acid, definitely part of it.
Well, there you go. He put stomach acid into his brain.
Brilliant move. Of course that's going to work. You fucking dumbass. Jeez.
So when Lindsay was to wake up, Jeff hoped that he would be a submissive sex slave type being at that point. But Lindsay did awaken and simply said, quote, "I have a headache. What time is it?" Unquote.
There's just something like particularly sad about that line.
Yeah, and then Dahmer was like, well, back to the old drawing board there. And he drugged Lindsay once more, strangling him to death.
Damn. That's... Wow. Well, at least he drugs them. Like, that's kind of really the only, like, merciful thing he does throughout this entire thing. But like, I outside of, killing people. But still, like, that's... Now this is, like, kind of, like, getting into the realm of, like, torture.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's not going to work. So It's like, of course, putting acid into somebody's brain is just really cruel,
Yeah, it's a fucking horrible thing to do. And it's definitely going to kill them and it's going to ruin their brain. And there's no, like, we still don't really fully understand how the brain works. And we have top level, like, there's like, I was watching videos and stuff of these guys who've been like, we've been working on the brain forever. We have like all the different generations of like study and understanding, and with all the information we do have, we're not even close to cracking it. So then Dahmer's just like, oh yeah, it's easy. Just pour a little of the bubbly in there, and then it'll be good to go. It's like, dude, you fucking no.
we know very basic mechanics of what each part of the brain does, but beyond that, we don't know how to make a sex slave zombie.
Yeah, and if we did, that's some fucking terrifying knowledge to have.
Yeah. So he dismembered the body, keeping the head, of course. But this time, as he stripped the flesh from the bone, he decided that he wanted to keep the skin, specifically the skin, not the flesh underneath it, but just like like an old like Ed Gein. He just wanted the skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, weird.
So he stripped all of the skin from the flesh and put it in a saline solution of cold water and salt in the hopes of preserving it. Now, unfortunately for Dahmer, after a few weeks, the skin became very frayed and brittle, so he disposed of it as well. Now he's trying all kinds of new things. Now he's getting creative, man. It's like he's playing Gmod and he has all these tools at his dispense. He's like, what can I do?
Oh yeah, well he's like experimenting. He's coming up with different hypotheses. He's testing it out, and it's like, oh, it's almost like if he would have like applied himself to not killing people and his weird fetishizing of bare-chested men, he might have even contributed something.
He could have been a great chemist for all we know, but
yeah, that didn't go well.
Now, in the timeline, we are well into 1991 at this point. By this time, residents of his apartment complex began to complain to the apartment manager named Sopa Princewell about terrible smells coming from Dahmer's unit.
Get that shit checked out. If you're in an apartment and it smells like something's dying, get that shit investigated.
Yeah, not a good sign. You know what I mean? He was confronted about the smell with answers for each occasion. The first time he was confronted, he said that his freezer had gone out and the contents of it had spoiled. On the second occasion, Dahmer claimed that his tropical fish had died and he did not dispose of the body yet.
Oh my God. And the worst part is, if all have had to deal with landlords before, like they just want to fucking not do work. Like they just want to make it as easy for themselves as possible. So this was super easy for him to get away with, I'm sure.
Yeah, because essentially what happened is Jeffrey reassured Sopa that the smell would be taken care of, and that was apparently good enough for her. Or him. I don't know. Sopa sounds like a girl's name. Didn't get any details on that. I'm going to say her.
Yeah.
So now people around him are like, what is up with this guy? Okay, because suspicions might have started to be raised. Is that the right way to say that?
Suspicions raised, yeah.
Yeah, suspicions raised. And if I was in an apartment complex and there was a terrible smell that clearly smelled like spoiled meat, I'd be in the dude was always drunk and kind of like, I'd be like, okay, something's going on here, like,
yeah, looks like the type of guy that would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's get into the next story, but this one, man, I'm sure a lot of you true crime buffs out there know about the story. It's fucking heartbreaking. Okay. On May 26, 1991, Dahmer met a young 14-year-old boy named Konarak Synthasomphony. Synthasomphony.
Synthasophone. I think
it's a name. I deliberately called him by his first name this whole time, so that's what I will do.
Yeah, smart call.
Now, in a sick twist of fate, Konarak was actually the younger brother of the boy that Dahmer molested back in 1988, but neither Dahmer nor Konarak knew this.
Shit.
So Dahmer offered this boy money to take Polaroid photos back at his apartment. At first, Konarak was hesitant, but he eventually agreed and went back to the apartment with Dahmer. After taking 2 photos of him, Dahmer drugged Konarak and performed oral sex on him as he was in and out of consciousness. Jeffrey then drilled a hole in his frontal lobe and poured, again, hydrochloric acid into the wound. He then led Konarak to his bedroom, in which the body of one Tony Hughes was lying from a murder he committed only 3 days prior.
Ugh.
And there's just like a body in there.
That's he's getting fucking sloppy now too.
Yeah, totally sloppy, all over the place, very disorganized. Yeah.
Oh man, and I'm glad because I mean the last time I heard the Jeffrey Dahmer story was at least 3 or 4 years ago, so it does feel nice to kind of like. Well, it doesn't feel nice. That's terrible. It's good to. It's,
Oh man.
I'm glad to go into this story with like not like having it right at the top of my dome because like I really did forget most of it for the better, probably out of repression. So it does feel good to kind of like It doesn't feel good. It's
Why do my friend Freud has something to say about your unconscious, my buddy, because you are just slipping all over the place like it's the goddamn Arctic.
Okay, hold on.
Do I need to come visit you and see what's going on in your upstairs like loft?
No, it's not the murder part. It's about talking about a really compellingly horrible story. You would know. You love horror.
I do. You're right. Yeah, I'm just picking on you because you're the one that fucked up, not me this time.
Can you tell I just finished my second cup of coffee?
Yeah. All right. So yeah, 3 days prior, killed a man named Tony Hughes, and the body's just laying there as he leads Konarak into the room. But Konarak did not seem to react to seeing the body, which is not surprising in my opinion, given the fact that he was drugged, basically half conscious, and there was acid in his brain at the time.
Yeah, I have a feeling when you get hydrochloric acid poured into a hole in your brain, I don't think there's coming back from that. I think that sounds irreparable.
Yes, especially your frontal lobe. That's no joke.
Yeah, so he's pretty much already, at least personality, dead.
So once Konarak lost consciousness, Dahmer grabbed some brews and drank them while lying next to Konarak, just enjoying the company.
Mm.
He then left his apartment in order to get more beer because he had run out. And
fucking makes time for a beer run.
Yeah. He just leaves Konarak on the floor and leaves his apartment.
Oh dear.
So when Dahmer, he's getting cocky, dude. So when Dahmer came back to his apartment, which was hours later because he probably stopped at bars and shit. Like it was the early hours of the next day, basically. He found Konarak sitting on the street corner with 3 women. The street corner on his apartment street, so pretty close by.
Yeah,
and so Konarak was speaking in Lao in a very distressed manner. Dahmer tried to persuade them that Konarak was with him, but he actually tried like grabbing his arm and pulling him back towards the apartment, but they stood their ground and said that they had already dialed 911. The women did that.
Good.
Very good.
Does he have a hole in his head right now too?
Yes. There may be some blood coming from his forehead, but they probably weren't sure what it was because I think he drilled into where the hair is. Into the frontal lobe.
See, I'm bald.
Yes.
I forgot that there's a thing on your head that can cover possible entry wounds.
Not too long after this encounter, 2 Milwaukee police officers, John Balserzak and Joseph Gabrish, showed up to the strange scene unfolding on North 25th Street. These 2 officers, absolutely terrible. Now, in this episode, we will see an example of good officers, and we will see an example of really shitty early 90s officers, okay? And right now, you're going to see the latter. Dahmer told them that Konarak was his 19-year-old lover who frequently acted erratic while intoxicated, and that they had got into a bit of a tiff after Konarak had drank too much Jack Daniels. The 3 women were dumbfounded when Dahmer said this, and that they were even further dumbfounded that the officers were listening to this shit. Okay, because the women were still here. They were actually doing a very good job trying to make sure that Konarak did not go with Dahmer because he clearly didn't want to.
Yeah, did the old tall white guy defense, huh?
Yes.
Yikes.
Now these 3 women tried to point out to the police that there were multiple injuries to Konarak. Aside from the obvious scrape on his knee, there was also bleeding on his testicles and his anus. Because he was I think in underwear, and it was quite visible.
Right. Oh no.
However, despite this, the officers consistently told these 3 women to quote, butt out, unquote, and to quote, shut the hell up, unquote. Very, primo officer work, and it only gets better.
Wow. Yeah. And they were all Laotian, right? So they weren't white, so they didn't give a shit about what they had to say.
I don't know if the women were Laotian. I think that Konrax may have stumbled upon them on the street when he escaped and was like, I need help, or he seemed distressed and needed help and they stopped to help him or something. I don't know if they were with it, like a part of his crew, you know?
Okay, because when he said he was speaking Laos, I was like, okay, I thought they understood him, but I could see being in a panic state, you just kind of revert to your original native tongue.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that makes sense.
So a little while later, when they're trying to figure out what's going on, 3 firefighters showed up to the scene as well to perform a brief medical examination on Konrak. One of the firefighters said that he should probably get some medical attention, but the 2 police officers, after hearing this, just told them to leave, told the firefighters to leave and that they'd handle it.
Oh my God. Was this before or after, or did they even find the hole in his head?
I don't think they mentioned anything about a hole in the head, so they didn't look very hard.
Fucking baffling, dude. That is that is wow. Just wow.
Then another officer named Richard Porobkin showed up to the scene. Okay. Now, the 3 officers decided to escort Dahmer and Konrak back to Dahmer's apartment unit. All the while, Jeffrey was buttering up the cops by commenting on the general state of crime in the area and how much he appreciated the law enforcement.
Wow. So he actually made friends from this encounter.
Yes. Now, once inside of the apartment, the officers wanted proof that Konrak was his lover. So Dahmer simply just showed them the 2 Polaroids he had taken of him earlier that night, and apparently that was good enough for these officers.
Holy crap. Well, I mean, consider the general state of things. Things aren't a whole lot better. It's bad police detective work has kind of been I wouldn't say rampant, but it's a lot more common, I think people believe.
Yes. But also we have to think about the time too, because this was 1991. Things have really only been getting better for the LGBTQ plus community in the last decade, if that, so think about how much they don't want to be here dealing with a gay lover's quarrel. From what they're being told, that's what it is.
Right. Well, I was going to say, and on Dahmer's part, that was the key point, is to emphasize that this is a gay thing, because they're just because they're straight white cops. They don't want to deal with that shit at all. So using that buzzword was actually, that sounded like that was his ace up his sleeve to get out of basically anything.
Right. Yeah. So they did the bare minimum. You know what I mean? And they didn't take any input.
That's fucked. That's so bad.
Also, as a side note, remember that the body of Tony Hughes was still in Dahmer's bedroom decomposing. Okay.
All they had to do was go to one of the rooms and they would have caught him.
Yes. Now, from what I could find, none of the officers really noted any unusual or never really took a huge note of an unusual smell at the time. But Officer Gabrish would say later that he did smell a slightly unusual odor while in the apartment. But perhaps they did smell something, because Dahmer would later say that one of the officers poked his head into the bedroom, but that's literally all he did. And I think the body was in the corner, on the left, and he just kind of looked in, is like, I don't see a body directly in front of me, so there must not be a body. And he just left. He just poked his head back out.
Dahmer got lucky as hell on this one. By all means, that should have been a done deal, finished, but no, I can't. I'm sure even Dahmer was like, how the fuck did I get away with that?
Total negligence, dude. It's embarrassing. It's disgusting.
Yeah, damn. I wonder if those cops are still alive, because you have to live with that for the rest of your days, huh?
Dumbasses.
Yeah.
So the officers left, telling Dahmer to, quote, take good care, unquote, of Konrak, and they filed the report as domestic violence, or domestic dispute is what they finalized.
Extra yikes.
So once the officers left the apartment, Dahmer injected another dose of acid into the wound in Konrak's skull, and this dose is what ended up killing him.
Yeah, just digested his own brain in his skull.
Almost got away, dude.
Almost. Jesus fucking Christ. That is extremely sad. And as they say, good things can happen to bad people.
Yeah. Unfortunately, man.
Wow, that's insane. Now the next question is, does he take this as a cautionary tale, or does he now just think he's like bulletproof?
It gets worse. It definitely gets worse.
Bulletproof.
The next day, on May 28th, Dahmer took a day off of work at the chocolate factory and spent the entire day dismembering and disposing of both Konarak and Hugh's bodies. He's like, all right, I got to get my shit together and actually start, being somewhat more organized.
Yeah, well, especially because now like suspicion's up on him, and that's probably why the smell wasn't so bad. Because I'm sure he'd taken some form of measure to get people off his shit.
Right. And also from this dismemberment process, he did keep both of their skulls naturally.
Of course.
On June 30th, Dahmer took a trip to Chicago and met a man named Matt Turner, 20 years old, at a bus station. And Dahmer offered Turner what he called a professional photo shoot back in Milwaukee, and Turner accepted his most generous offer.
Bad call.
If anybody looking like Dahmer, who's just drunk and kind of just a strange individual, offers a professional photo shoot, you can guarantee that it's not professional.
No. And also wasted, blackout drunk does not mean harmless.
Right. In fact, quite the opposite for some people.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And also even worse that since they are blackout, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. That's probably half the reason half of bar fights are in that state, huh?
Man, bar fights are fun though, buddy. Yeah.
You don't feel it. 'Cause we used to beat the shit out of each other when we were wasted drunk, and you didn't feel it because you were drunk.
No, you felt it the next day, but that didn't matter until the next day.
Yeah. I think there was like one time where it was like we did it like one last time, like when you were like 27 or something. And I remember waking up the next day being like, holy shit, I feel like I'm gonna fall apart.
Dude, remember when we used to go to parties at our friend's house and we would just fight, like we would straight up like fight like kickboxing in the backyard, and people thought we were actually like fighting, and we were just, no, this is what we do.
Yeah, we had like circles around, and nobody wanted to admit it. I could be wrong about this, but it was controlled. It was all in good taste. It was all in good humor. Both of us, it was very clear, like, okay, if you get a hit on me, or like, if you tap out, it's done. It was clean rules. We fought clean, and I think everyone thought it was really fun.
It was fun, man. It was a great time. It was a great way to wash down a couple shots of whiskey.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, fucking Nick and Tasker going out to beat the shit out of each other again. Like, guess we'll watch them.
Cigarettes in our mouth and just fucking... Yeah.
Well, what was fun is because like you were like twice my size and stuff like that, and like watching us I wouldn't say fight evenly, because you definitely have like years of training on me. So, and I appreciate you giving me that handicap, because I'd be dead.
No, but you fucking did it, man. Like, there's no better way to learn than to fight the real thing. And you, dude, come on, you got to give yourself credit, man. It was fun. You got some good hits.
I will say I am proud of myself. There was that time where, and there was like, I feel like that actually almost like improved my reputation, because I was the only one willing to spar with you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good shit, man. We had fun.
Yeah, I miss those days, buddy. Next time we see each other, we'll beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
So back at his apartment, Dahmer went through his usual MO of drugging, strangling, and dismembering Turner. This time, he kept his head and internal organs in plastic bags, which he stored in the freezer. Only 5 days after this murder, on July 5th, Dahmer took another trip to Chicago and met a 23-year-old man named Jeremiah Weinberger at a local bar in the city. He was able to lure Weinberger back to his apartment in Wisconsin, asking him to just simply spend the weekend with him.
No, with no strings attached, for no reason, out of nowhere. That is fishy.
That's fishy, man. No money, no reason, and it's not in the same town that you live in. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, with no incentive or anything. That's not great. And by the way, Dahmer's killed like 5 people in the past like month.
He's gone berserker. Like, he's ramping up, and this is definitely that when we talked about last time. This is that time for him, that berserker mode.
Okay. So now we're in he's just the bull seeing red. It's just get as many as he can. And like I said, he's getting cozy with it too. Like, it's no longer a like shocking, doing the crazy thing. Now this is just a part of his life now.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And he's trying to find more ways to have fun with it, I guess. So
Oh, that's so scary. These are people. Like, he is ending lives as part of his daily routine.
now, once there at the apartment, Weinberger was drugged and had boiling water injected into his brain through his skull twice.
That does not make my body happy.
That sounds uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I almost just got like a mild headache just thinking about it.
Ugh. So this led to Weinberger falling into a 2-day coma, which ultimately killed him naturally. I mean, it's just like, what do you expect will happen, you know?
Yeah. It's the brain. It's the built-in weak point. Like, that's the one thing. That's why we have a skull, because you got to keep it safe. It does not take a lot to fuck a brain up.
Nope. Only days later, okay, Jeffrey again met a man named Oliver Lacey, 24 years old. So Dahmer asked him to pose for nude photographs, and Lacey obliged. Back at the apartment, the two engaged in consensual sexual activities, although from some things I read, in this case, some said consensual, some said that it was tentative. I don't know what that means in the court, and I think tentative sex is usually like a borderline, you know?
Yeah, well, I think at least in like standard law, like nowadays, unless there's like an absolute yes and there's no withholding of consent, like it has to be it can't be a maybe. Long story short, it can't be a maybe. Maybe if it was a maybe, you can still be charged as sexually assaulting somebody.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So in this case, if it was tentative, then it was not consensual.
Probably not. At least in the eyes of the law, it sounds like it wasn't. And knowing Dahmer, it probably wasn't.
That's a good point. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So Dahmer wanted to prolong his time with Lacey before he killed him. However, he was unsuccessful, rendering Lacey unconscious with chloroform. Now, I've never done this before. I don't really plan on ever doing it. But how do you fuck up using chloroform?
It's supposed to be pretty dang, like, I don't know, maybe he got like the amount wrong, or maybe he diluted it, or I mean, we don't have enough information, but that sounds like a pretty like he's like we were saying, he's getting sloppy.
Getting real sloppy, man.
Well, because now it's like, well, he's gotten away with it for so long. It's like the tension of it and the stake. I think now it just feels like there aren't any as much stakes as there were before, because he knows he can get away with it. He's been getting away with it, and he's been doing this for like a couple of years now. So there's the urgency's gone. Like, there's no sense of like, oh fuck, like I don't know if this is good. It's just, no, I know I'm gonna get away with this, so I'm gonna try some new things, and I'm gonna to test this out, because if this doesn't work, I could just do this and it'll be whatever.
God damn, just like like Han Solo said in Star Wars, don't get cocky, kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great. Well, it's like working a part-time job, and eventually you get so like good at it, and you just get good results that you just kind of start fucking around, because but for this, it's just with human life in the balance, and that's level of depravity. That's like the reason why he's so famous.
Exactly. So it's not said how he ultimately did get him to become unconscious, but I assume that he resorted to his previous drugging method once the chloroform didn't work. Jeff called into his work asking for another day off, and they let him have the day off, but he was suspended following this because of his frequent requests for time off.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And if anybody knew anything about Dahmer's like day-to-day and his activities, and it's not that hard to piece it together that he's killing people.
Right. Now, Dahmer then strangled Lacey to death and had sex with his corpse before dismembering it. Lacey's head and heart went into the refrigerator for later consumption, and his skeleton was placed in the freezer. 4 days later, on July 19th, Dahmer was told by the chocolate factory that he had been fired. Okay, so there goes that part of his life.
Oh, and that was like the one thing he liked, huh?
Yeah, that was the one thing kind of holding him together as far as like, I think reality goes, because he had to go there and be in reality for some time while he was working, right? Now, without that kind of secure base, it's just downhill, and you'll see it too. I mean, we're coming to a close here, but you'll see it just ramps up.
Well, that's a really good point too, because it's just every day he came home from work, he was like, okay, now back to like the dark fantasy world where I can be the god of my world and where I own these lives and stuff like that. And it's all about my sexual pleasure above everybody else and blah, blah, blah. But you're right. At work, he had to be grounded. He had to pretend that he wasn't this fucking psychopath that he was. But with that gone, he is completely unchained. And well, let's just hear what happened.
So, upon hearing the news of him being fired, Dahmer went out and literally like the same day, went out and lured a 25-year-old man named Joseph Braidhoft back to his apartment. Dahmer strangled him once back at his apartment and left Braidhoft's body lying in his bed, covered in a sheet for 2 days.
Now, this sounds like a rage killing.
Yeah, that didn't seem like it was going anywhere. I mean, he did keep something from this, which we'll see, but it definitely seems like an impulsive, like, fuck this, like I'm going to do, now I got nothing else to do. So
yeah, I lost my chocolate job. So you know what? I'm going to take it out on this random guy.
Yeah. Now, it was only 2 days, remember, that he was lying in his sheet, but I think this says something about the state of his house and how fucking disgusting it was. After only 2 days had passed, on July 21st, Dahmer lifted the sheet and saw that maggots had already begun eating Braidhoft's head.
There's the decomposition.
Yeah. So he decapitated the head from the body, cleaned the head off, and put it in the fridge. The rest of the body was dismembered and put in his acid bath, along with the remaining scraps of body from his previous 2 victims. So on this next part of the podcast, we now come to July 22nd, 1991, Nick's birthday, which is weird.
Interesting.
Yes. So this takes place 1 day after he acidified Braidhoft's body. This is the day of infamy in the Jeffrey Dahmer saga.
I don't mean to break up the action, but it's funny to me how my birthday is remembered because it's V for Vendetta, remember 5th of November, and your birthday's easiest remembered as this infamous day in Jeffrey Dahmer's biography.
Yes. Yeah, I have much to live for. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Dahmer approached 3 men and offered them $100 to accompany him back to his apartment to take nude photos, drink some brews, and just spend some quality time together. Only one of these men, 32-year-old Tracy Edwards, accepted the offer. Now, a little bit of a spoiler here, but we actually have accounts of what happened through Edwards himself in this instance, okay?
Yep, so he survived, if you haven't picked up on that.
Now, upon reaching Dahmer's apartment unit, Edwards said that he immediately smelled a terrible odor coming from his apartment, okay? He also saw many boxes of hydrochloric acid on the ground in the walkway, which Dahmer said that he used to clean bricks with.
Oh, dude, you cannot buy that for a fucking second. Even if you are cleaning bricks, you don't need that much.
Yeah. Now they talked for a few minutes, and then Dahmer was like, "Hey, look over there at my tropical fish there, in that tank." And when Edwards turned his head, so he literally did "Hey, what was that?"
Yeah, look over there.
Yeah. So he told him to look at the fish. Edwards turned his head to look at the fish. And then Dahmer slapped a pair of handcuffs on one of his arms.
Well, I hope it was at least a cool fish.
It was probably pretty dope.
Yeah, tropicals, yeah, they're cool to look at.
Dahmer then tried to get the other piece of the other part of the handcuff on his own wrist, but failed somehow. And my guess is probably because he was shit-faced.
Yeah, shit-faced, sloppy, cocky, dangerous combination.
So he missed it. And he just kind of made Edwards go to the bedroom with him. And so instead of putting it on his own wrist, he would just hold the other end of the handcuff to make sure he couldn't get away.
Got it.
Now, as Edwards walked in the room, he noted a few things. 1, there were nude male posters on the walls, not surprising. 2, The Exorcist 3 was playing on the television, which leads me to believe that not only was Dahmer a serial killer, but he also had terrible taste in movies.
But I heard the Exorcist sequels are considered to be one of the worst movies ever made.
Oh, man, if you want a fun day, get drunk, watch that on a Friday night and eat some pizza. It's terrible.
Awesome.
And 3, he spotted one of his infamous 57-gallon drums that Dahmer used to acidify bodies. And that is where the smell was coming from.
And all this in an apartment. That's not really what you typically have in an apartment. At this point, he's just like, it's just out in the open. It's one step away from just straight up just leaving a corpse out.
Yeah. And a small apartment at that too. So
yeah,
it's no wonder that the neighbors could smell this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So basically just murder house.
Murder house. Dahmer then took out a knife and told Edwards that he was going to pose for nude photographs for him by threat of knife. Edwards began to unbutton his shirt and said that he would only do it if Dahmer removed the handcuffs from his wrist and put the knife away. Now, this is where that psychotic break I was talking about comes in. He starts to become a little delusional. Okay. Everything's culminated to this. He's been disorganized. He's been sloppy. He just lost his job, his last base of reality. And this is where we see a break. Dahmer did not reply to the request to take off the handcuff and put away the knife. He simply turned his head to the TV and began to rock back and forth, chanting something unintelligible quietly.
Oh, that man is not on the planet Earth anymore.
No, not at all. He also put his head on Edwards' chest, placed the knife against his skin, and told Edwards that he intended to eat his heart.
Holy shit. Yeah, he's so fucking gone. Like, that's insane that somebody can get to that state.
Yeah. So now, and we'll see in a little bit. So this was a breaking point. We'll see in a little bit that he kind of gets back into it a little bit, but he's gone. He's pretty gone.
Yeah. This is just the raw state, the raw version of that, like repressed, all that stuff that he's been pushing down. I think he's now just at a zone where it's just all front and center. He's just letting himself fully give in to every urge he's ever had and stuff like that. And that's what's left of him.
Now, for a while at this point, Edwards did the right thing by trying to appease Dahmer during his psychotic state. He would remind Dahmer that they were friends and that he would not run away from him.
Yep. Smart
man. Despite saying that, Edwards had decided that he would either jump out of the window or run through the unlocked front door the next time an opportunity arose. And jumping out the window seems drastic, but remember that Dahmer's apartment number was 213, which leads me to believe it was on the second floor. Not too terrible if you're in a life and death situation to jump out of that height.
Life or death? Absolutely doable.
Now, Edwards said he needed to use the restroom. But before he went, he asked Dahmer if they could just sit in the living room and drink beer where there was AC running. Dahmer agreed to this, and they entered the living room after Edwards had finished using the bathroom.
Using his own Wisconsinite upbringing against him. Nothing like beer to distract you.
Couple brews, maybe the AC on. We'll watch a Packers game. You got any sausage in that fridge? Oh, no, just some human heads. Okay.
Oh, man. I was hoping you had some of that spotted cow, which, by the way, is delicious beer.
Oh, man, I love the Midwest, dude. They're so goofy. All right. Now, Edwards carefully observed Dahmer's behavior while they were in the living room and waited until Jeffrey had a lapse in concentration, which I assume he didn't have to wait very long for.
Yeah, with the whole psychosis and blackout drunkenness.
He found an opportunity and asked Dahmer if he could use the restroom again. Edward stood up to do so, and this time he saw that Dahmer was not holding the other end of the handcuff to guide him to the bathroom. He was just going to let him go on his own. So when he saw this, he sucker punched Dahmer in the face, spun around, and booked it out of the front door of Dahmer's apartment unit as fast as he could.
Yeah. Finally, something fucking good.
Just decks him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just bah! And I bet that was so satisfying. But little did you know, how many just unrested souls just all cheered in unison when that happened.
Absolutely. So at 11:30 that night, not long after he left the apartment unit, Edwards was able to get the attention of two police officers, Robert Routh and Rolf Mueller. Could these names, dude? You're in Wisconsin when the names of all the white people are primarily either German or Polish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
So, now remember earlier I said that in this story or in this episode, there's two bad police officers who we've already talked about. And then there's two officers who, did their job.
Yeah.
this is the pair that did their job. Okay. So he got the attention of these two officers on the corner of North 25th Street, which is, Dahmer's apartment street. So he basically left and was lucky enough to find two police officers almost right away. The officer saw the handcuffs, and Edwards explained to them that some quote unquote freak had put them on him. The officers tried to get the handcuffs off, but their keys did not fit this pair of handcuffs specifically. So, after explaining a little bit more, the two officers agreed to accompany Edwards back to Dahmer's apartment.
That takes balls, too, to go with him.
Right. That's balls, man, because you just escaped from hell, and you're like, what? I gotta do it, because apparently these guys believe me. I'll show them where it's at.
Yeah, geez. Well, power to him.
So the three showed up to apartment 213, knocked on the door, and Dahmer invited them inside. At this point, I think he just wanted to get caught. At this point, I think he was just like, there's no way.
I was about to say it just because, he just let him go. Like he was going to the bathroom and he just let go of the literally let go of the handcuff. And that's for Dahmer. Even for Dahmer, that's pretty dang slow. Also, he didn't drug him at first, which is also a little peculiar considering he just did it with the person before. So I think because he did that one rage murder and kind of like that earlier on, how remember he killed that guy and didn't get to use him at all. And was just it threw him out in a funk. I think losing his job, because he did legitimately really like that job. And now he doesn't have the money and now he can't afford the murder supplies. So he murdered somebody out of rage. And I think that just sort of began this berserker stage. But I also think too, either one, he just lost himself so much to psychosis that he just wasn't really considering all the elements that he could still get caught, like that bulletproof feeling. I think it's either pure psychosis. He was just so lost in his fantasy world that he just wasn't thinking, or two, he just was like, I'm just going to keep killing until someone gets me.
Right. It might've been a combination of the both. I think it was a combination of the both, because I think that he knew his days were numbered. Especially since his apartment neighbors were noticing smells and the apartment manager was on his back, and the whole run-in with the police with the 14-year-old Konarak and all that. He knew things were narrowing.
Yeah, he was slipping up. The cops were getting closer to him, whether he knew it or not. And it was just and I think also too, now how am I going to find another job that's going to let me keep killing people and let me keep doing this? I had such a great system and now it's ruined. And it sounds like his fantasy got ruined, and he's, staked, several, a lot of murders on this. He's killed 16 people at this point.
A lot of people. So
yeah. And that's not something you just lightly give up. You're in it. You're in deep. You've done it. You've committed the ultimate crime against a fellow man. So yeah, I think it just, even for him, it just got to be too much. So he just decided to just fall back on just pure raw instinct, and either just that's what got him caught, or he just was like, somebody needs to stop me. So I'm gonna, and maybe it was just a lapse up. Maybe in the middle of it, he didn't intend on letting him go and letting him get away. But maybe at some point he was just kind of like, you know what, fuck it. Let's see what happens.
Right, man. So once invited inside, Dahmer admitted to the officers that he had indeed put handcuffs on Edwards, but did not expand upon why he did that. Okay, he just left it at that. He admitted to it. Edwards also said that Dahmer threatened him with a knife, and he told this to the officers while they were all standing in the living room. Dahmer did not comment on this. He pretty much ignored it, but he did say that the key to the handcuffs was on a bedside dresser in his room.
Yeah, I think at this point, he might be in that in-between, maybe I can get away with this. I don't know. 'Cause I don't think he's quite given up yet, but I also think he kind of knows it's coming.
Yeah, and we'll see one more attempt right here for him to preserve his lifestyle, persona and his lifestyle. Officer Mueller began to walk toward the bedroom in order to get the handcuff key. But Dahmer tried to pass him in order to grab the key first and prevent him from seeing his bedroom. But Mueller told him to quote unquote back off because he knew something weird was going on.
Yeah, well, yeah. Any investigation where like, oh wait, no, let me shit the fuck down.
So Officer Mueller entered the room and did see the knife that Edwards had mentioned was used against him. He then approached the dresser, and the drawer was open, and he saw countless Polaroid photos of male bodies, all in different stages of the dismemberment process.
Not a good look.
Not great. He looked closer at the photos, noting that the environment in the photos was indeed the very room he was standing in. So he took the photos out to the living room and showed them to his partner, simply uttering the phrase, quote, "These are for real," unquote.
I can only imagine just the sink of the heart to like look at that, piece it together, be like, oh, he did this.
Oh,
like,
we're in a hell house right now.
Yeah, this is, oh, shit.
Now, Dahmer, of course, noticed that the officers were holding his incriminating photographs, so he got up and tried to fight the officers in an attempt to resist arrest. The officers quite easily overpowered Dahmer and cuffed him, calling a second car for backup. As soon as they had him cuffed, they're like, fuck, something big is happening here. You know what I mean?
Well, that's crazy how he didn't make a break for it. He just thought he could take him down 2v1.
Yeah, dude. It's like that. He's like that guy in Overwatch who just kind of like everybody is respawning, but he respawns first. It's like, I got this. And he just goes towards the objective, you know?
Fucking Genji running over thinking he could take the whole team on. Yeah. I mean, at this point too, it's like, I think when he let the guy like go to the bathroom by himself, I think he had, I don't know if he quite wanted to get caught, but he was just sort of like, you know what? I think he was just in a fuck it, whatever. And then when the cops came, then it was just like, you know, that kind of like, yeah, maybe I do want to get caught and just be done with all this bullshit, not have to deal with it. But then when the cops came, I think he was kind of like, you know, it's like, you know, you don't know how much you don't want to fall off the edge until you get to the edge. And then suddenly I think he was like, oh shit, we need to back the fuck up. But hey, I got away with this before. So like, yeah, you know, whatever, go ahead. I'll just ignore some questions. But once those Polaroids came out, it was just like, it's his usual impulse, like he did with everybody else. I need to kill them. I need to get, like he did with all the other victims of, this might get out. They're going to tell everybody I need to kill them. And if I can, I think he just hedged his bet on, I think if I can take them, I get away with it. And if I run away, I'm going to get caught anyway. So he gave it a shot and fucking obviously lost because it's two trained cops.
Yeah, man. The moral of the story is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, but sometimes you still miss the shot.
Yeah. Oh man. Inspirational story, but good on these fucking, yeah, get him. Get him.
Finally, right? Some competent, caring cops who are doing their job.
Yeah, for real.
So as they were waiting for backup to come, Mueller was kind of poking around the apartment, which I fucking would do too, right? If I was in that situation and I saw those Polaroids, I was like, okay, what is going on here?
Yeah.
He opened the fridge, not a good idea, in which he saw freshly severed head from one of his victims. Okay. Dahmer looked over at the fridge, looked at Mueller and said, quote, "For what I did, I should be dead," unquote.
The whiplash of being snapped into reality in just a couple minutes. Like, wow. Because he went from full blown like primal fantasy. I am a fucking god monster and I can do whatever I want and nobody can stop me. If I decide you're dead and if I decide you're my sexual plaything, you are that and there's nothing you can do about it, to pinned on the ground, cuffed, and realizing what the fuck you've been doing.
Yeah. So once backup had arrived, a more detailed search of his apartment was conducted by actual investigators. Here's what they found initially. 4 severed heads were found in the kitchen. 7 skulls were found in Dahmer's bedroom and closet. 2 hearts and pieces of arm muscle were found in the fridge, and an entire torso and a bag of internal organs were found in the freezer.
Ooh, that's see, if they were just like, you know, like plastic, like you would in like a classroom or something, okay, like not that bad. It's almost a full body.
Yeah, it's like some weird twisted version of Frankenstein, but instead of trying to put a body together, he's just trying to eat a whole body, you know?
Yeah. So what parts did he eat? I don't think we really got into that.
So he ate internal organs he liked, especially hearts. That's why he saved hearts. Penises. He really liked the penis. even though it's like chewy. From what I've heard, I've never eaten a penis.
So I'm told.
And leg and arm muscle.
Okay. And did he like cook them and shit? Was it like for the victims that he didn't find sexually attractive, he ate them, or did he eat them all in some weird twisted?
He didn't seem to have a pattern. He would be like, "Oh, this sounds good," and like during the dismemberment process, he would just save whatever sounded good. Like, I don't think that was necessarily based on attraction. The eating portion, I think what was based on attraction more so was if he kept the skull in the head or not.
Oh, I see.
And the penis. He liked to preserve penises too and skeletons.
I see. So the eating of the flesh and stuff like that was sort of more impulsive, if anything, instead of an actual like goal he had in mind. Like he wasn't an active cannibal. It was just something like, well, while I have this here, I might as well give it a go.
That might be the case, but don't quote me, because on the final episode, we will be able to learn more about what he was thinking. Because right now we're going through the story.
Okay.
In the next episode, when I look into, because he's been interviewed multiple times. There's some very in-depth interviews with him, and there's a lot of information about his thought processes during this time. So I'm sure we will get more insight on the cannibalism next time.
Okay, got it. Yeah, because that was one thing I was like, wait, hold on. He's the Milwaukee Cannibal. We haven't seen him eat anything.
Right. No, so next episode, I'll be sure to find the information talking about cannibalism, because there's a very famous interview that he did while in prison where he talks a little bit about his cannibalistic tendencies. So I'll be sure to put that information in so we get a better light.
I see. Spreading the shock value around so that way we get a little bit in each episode.
Yeah, a little sprinkle here, a little sprinkle there, except this whole episode's just been a lot of it's been a whole dump of shock, but
okay.
It's the climax.
Yeah, exactly. And there's more to come, pun intended.
Oh, good God. Good. You couldn't have made a worse time to make a cum joke.
Yeah.
That's my job.
The worst.
It's the worst. You're turning into me, dude.
I know. No, remember, dude, this is an early morning episode. This is not how I usually am.
That's fair. Okay. So that wasn't it. That wasn't everything that they found, though, because throughout the rest of the apartment, investigators had also found 2 whole skeletons, a pair of hands, 2 severed and preserved penises, a mummified scalp, and of course, the 57-gallon drum of acid, which contained 3 dismembered torsos, which were currently being dissolved.
Dude, that's the worst fucking cleanup crew job ever.
Yeah, no good, especially in that cramped apartment. You imagine the smell. The smell is bad enough when it's just sitting there in the fridge or in the tub, but imagine when you start opening the fridge in the tub.
Yeah, and you gotta, and it's also, I'm sure it's really heavy too, so everyone's like sweating and shit like that, so you're breathing heavy, so you gotta breathe all that shit in.
And if you guys are interested, there is news footage of this day, and you can see clips of investigators and cleanup crews literally taking the stuff out of the apartment. You can see them taking the big drum out, all the stuff.
Yeah, hold on, let me pull it up really quick. Dahmer arrest, maybe?
Yeah, try that.
Oh, here we go. Historical footage of investigators collecting evidence. Jeffrey boxes, man. There's all these boxes and all like duct taped. People outside. Oh, there's the drum, and the guys are all in like hazmat suits. The fridge, it's all taped up. Oh my God. And those guys do not look like they are enjoying this job.
Not at all, man. Not at all.
Oh my fucking God. There's so much. Yeah, y'all, if y'all haven't seen it, it's just, oh, yep. And there's like the body bag. Yeah, I'd say if you're listening to this episode, you should definitely watch that footage. It's just, it really, like we said before, this is a real thing to happen to real people, and to just sort of see it as it is, as it happened I think it really sells about how the reality of all this craziness.
Exactly. Good way to put it, man. I mean, we've been talking for 3 episodes now, but you really should watch some footage to kind of get that sense of dread, that sense of this happened and this really was being shot on camera. This is, man, it's weird. It's weird to see that. And it's really strange to see his interviews too. So
yeah, it's creepy. And it's even creepier to just think this was just a thing. This occurred. The man did it. The man admitted to it. I think. Well, we'll get more into that on the next episode.
Yeah. So, in addition to all of that, all the body parts and all the torsos, everything that they had found, 74 Polaroid photos specifically depicting dismembered corpses were found and documented. And that's just photos of like dismembered bodies, not like, during their unconscious states. There were probably hundreds of actual Polaroids taken documenting crime. These were just specifically dismemberment photos.
Oh, just the astonishing level of evidence too, because like we saw earlier on, at first he was super like just destroyed every remnant of the body possible. But now he's like doing keepsakes and stuff to the point where now it's just his own living space was just about as incriminating as it comes.
Yeah. And to end this episode, the chief medical examiner, while they were finding all this stuff, said, quote, "It was more like dismantling someone's museum than an actual crime scene," unquote.
Just the gravity of how far it's gone. And like, that's crazy. And like I said, that's a big job to pull all that shit down, because he's been collecting it over the year and all about corpses and all just dead people. And I can only imagine, like you were saying, the dread of like, oh, this man killed a lot of people.
Yeah. And, kind of a bloody episode, kind of hard to get through at certain points, but we hope you guys learned something. We hope you enjoyed it to,
right.
The extent that you psychologically should enjoy this.
Right.
And, that's it for part 3. But guys, episode 99 is going to conclude the series. We're going to get into his arrest. We're going to get into his initial interrogation by a super cop we'll talk about, who has become quite famous from this incident. And his trial, his imprisonment, his death. We're going to get into all that stuff. And most importantly, we're going to get into his brain a little bit. We're going to hear from the horse's mouth what the fuck was going on in his head throughout the story we just told.
Yeah. So the tale's not over yet. We still got a little bit more to go, but it'll be a lot more aftermath, a lot more of less of the how and more of the why.
Exactly. So yeah, but that's it for part 3. We hope you guys enjoyed it, man, because it was interesting. It was interesting to look at. I didn't want to say fun and fall into Tasker's trap that he fell into a couple times earlier, but it's
a bad
interesting.
One. Yeah, there was a term for it. I think it's called getting stun locked.
Stun locked? Is that what that is?
I think it's more of like when somebody says something that like you're like you passionately disagree with, and you're like, wait, and you just keep talking or like backtracking and you're stun locked. You can't continue your conversation.
Oh man, that's great. No, I'm not. I'm just poking fun. I know that you don't. I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing that there's no body in your.
No, I live with my mom and she's pretty astute. So I think I'm in the clear. Now for you, I know you got your own pad though. I think we should be more looking in that direction. Actually, no, I don't want to know.
All right. Yeah. Just, there's a 50/50 chance, it's like Schrodinger's basement. Like, do I have bodies in here? You won't know. I don't have bodies until you find them. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I did visit you that one time and there were no bodies, but that could also just be you're just efficient.
I'm organized, bro. I'm high. I've scored high in conscientiousness before. I'm fine. All right. I will never, ever be caught.
Yep. Except for when this audio right now is being played for the court in the trial. That would be the most ironic thing ever. Like it's like a rapper admitting to their crimes in their songs.
Nah, I'm not a killer. I don't like blood, so I can't do that.
Yeah, and plus, like, I mean, and with all due respect, I think you might be. I don't think I think it might be too much work for you. I actually think you might find it too tedious.
Oh my God, yeah. It sounds terrible. It sounds like, let alone having to kill somebody, but then having to deal with the like I don't know how he did it all the time. Like, it's just like, it sounds like the biggest pain in the ass. Cause dude, you've seen me in the kitchen. I consider myself to be quite a good chef. Okay. But I'm very particular about food and getting sticky stuff on my hands. Cause I might be slightly autistic. I might have some kind of Asperger's, or I'm just kind of like, I don't like sticky stuff. So imagine me trying to dismember a body. I'd be like the most grossed out fucking No, dude, I couldn't.
I just think you wouldn't do it, and then you'd get caught like the next day.
Oh yeah, like too lazy. Yeah, that too. Like, yeah, I'll do that later because I'm known for being, you know, I'm known to procrastinate things I don't care about. So, you know.
Well, it's good that there's no reason for us to ever do this because we're just too lazy.
Sounds like a pain in the ass.
That sounds like it would take all day.
Got schoolwork.
Shit. I don't know. I'd rather just lay down and look at TikTok or something. So, yeah, killing's bad. Okay, don't do it. Human lives are important, and we should let them live as they are living. Yeah, it's all really good stuff. Wish we could say the same for Count Chocula, who has a very, very much disdain for really life in general.
Oh, dude. You know what's funny about true crime is we know all these big names. We know Dennis Rader. We know Ted Bundy. We know Jeffrey Dahmer. We know John Wayne Gacy, Henry Lee Lucas, all these guys. But the most prolific serial killer of all time is just under the radar. Mr. Count Chocula himself.
There's just so many, with all the big ones we've captured, there's always that wonder of how many just got away with it, to this day. And they just left. They were so good at their job that nobody made the connection. And they just, Count Chocula's up there in that rare class of people. And that's why we're doing that episode on him. So we can give that exposure that he needs to get him on that famous list and, be done with it for good. So we're definitely working on Count Chocula episode. Still in the works. It's going to be great when it comes out. So look forward to that. If you're listening on iTunes, if you could 5-star rate and review, that'd be super helpful for our podcast. Give us a little bit more visibility. Spotify, if you click the follow button, we have new episodes every single Wednesday. Our Instagram is at CEOTPK. Our YouTube, Close Encounters of the Podcast Kind, where we have all of our episodes uploaded. Twitter is at CEOTPK1. Our TikTok account at CEOTPK. For all these links and the links I'm about to say, you can go to Facebook, Close Encounters of the Podcast Kind, or just facebook.com/CEOTPK. Like I said, all these links will be there. You can email us directly at ceotpk1@gmail.com, like we did with today. Love hearing from you guys. If you have some input on what we talked about or didn't talk about, please feel free to let us know. We love to hear with you guys. We love the interaction, and it just makes it really fun for us. If you want to talk to us in more of a live setting, discord.gg/lowercase b, number 6, capital C, capital T, number 5, capital M, capital X. Again, that link is on our Facebook. If you don't feel like typing all that in, it's the easiest and most direct way to chat with us if there's some pressing matters you want to bring up. And our coffee is ko-fi.com/CEOTPK. If you feel the need to donate, we have that there. And again, if you donate money, if you have a little message you want us to say on the podcast, we will gladly read it, within reason.
Within reason, guys. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't want to hear excerpts from Mein Kampf. I don't want to hear your goddamn Chris Dorner manifesto. Just say like hey, good job, or hey, talk more about this, or call out for your mom. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Or if one of them just straight up just post the entire lyrics to Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley.
I would, if you guys did that, I would read it for you. I'll sing it for you.
Yeah, no, why not? I think it'd be fun. Rickroll everybody.
Yeah, guys, thanks for listening. But look, whether you're a fan of the first pair of police officers or the second pair, the truth is out there.
If you're a fan of the first pair, I think there's some, maybe you shouldn't be living alone. Yeah, it's not bad.
Do you remember when we were cavemen and we used to just kind of like bonk some people on the head and have our ways with them?
I don't think we should keep that.